Luke Beckman from Central Valley Ag is our corn and soybean market analyst this week. The USDA is scheduled to release its August crop report on Thursday at 11 a.m. Central. The numbers will contain the agency's estimates on yield and production derived from producer survey responses and actual field inspections. Farmers are undoubtedly hoping for something favorable in those numbers. Corn and soybean prices have slid over the last 3 weeks and were down noticeably Tuesday. We talked with Luke Wednesday afternoon at CVA's location south of Tilden, Nebraska, and began by asking about current crop conditions across CVA territory in the state.
Pretty variable. It's been a hit or miss kind of summer. It seems that way even across the entire belt. But here in Nebraska, pretty variable. You're south of the Platte River and things still look really good. Come north of the Platte River, it gets a lot more variable. Northeast part of the state, east to 81, probably the toughest spot. So variable. I think there's going to be some very good crops out there, and dryland certainly not what it was a year ago.
How does that compare to the rest of the Corn Belt?
Well, I think as you look even at the state of Iowa, you look at Illinois, very cut up with how the moisture has fallen. So I think the conditions in Nebraska are probably consistent with what we've seen in other states as well. So I think the trades has some question marks about production, and rightfully so.
The market was up a bit today, but the first 2 days of the week, not a great start. What's going on?
Well, I think you go back to Friday's Commitment of Traders report, and we still had some length left in corn and soybeans both. You come in Monday, you see the crop ratings in the afternoon. Corn was fine, it was supportive, but the soybean number up, a couple points. The market wasn't expecting that. So a lot of money started coming out of the beans, and it just pulled everything else with it.
Over the last 3 weeks, corn's lost about 40 cents, soybeans are down about 70. What things need to happen to try and eat away at some of that as we approach harvest?
Sure, I think that the August 10th crop report coming up next Thursday is obviously an important date. We've seen some private information from, Informa, FC Stone. Some of your private sector brokers have started to offer up, corn yield estimates that are in the low 160s. So I think that's supportive. I think when we get into next week, I think we'll be firm coming into the Thursday report. We'll see what those numbers have to say. But that could certainly be supportive. I think if you ran into any, early freeze type headlines or anything like that, that could certainly help. But you're going to have to get the money excited a little bit to really propel this thing. The issue is we can afford to have a smaller crop this year because our carryout from 16, 17 is going to be quite large for both corn and soybeans.
On the flip side, is there a chance we trend lower?
Certainly possible. I think 374 is the low on the December charts from a few weeks ago. If we break through that, certainly there's some more losses that could ensue. Soybeans probably are at a greater risk just because the weather forecast is pretty cool, wet for the soybean crop. There's a gap on the charts at 960. I think we go back and fill that eventually. So certainly some weakness that could happen before harvest.
What would be your thoughts on selling strategies for either old or new?
It gets a little bit tough. You look at the corn market and there's so much carry in that market from even the spot bid even to harvest. We have better prices at harvest available than we do currently. So I think that that's going to incent anybody with storage to hold it. I think that's going to happen. So you're going to see farmers, you're going to see elevators carry corn into the new crop marketing year. So I think it'll probably present some basis opportunities. We've seen that basis has firmed some in the last week to 10 days at your end user destinations. So everybody's going to want to be full coming out of harvest, both farmers and your commercial system.
You had mentioned that crop report on Thursday. It's a big one because of the yield number that will be released. What are your thoughts going into it?
I think the USDA is not going to come anywhere close to what the private estimates are. And remember, those folks are predicting what they think the final number is going to be, not what we're going to see next Thursday. So I think they'll take a couple bushels off. I think you'll see the corn yield in the 167, 168 range. Soybeans, they'll come off of that 50 number, maybe a shade, in the 48, 49. But overall, I think the market's going to anticipate a lot of that. So unless we see something else change in the balance sheet, acres could change for corn. That would certainly help. Otherwise, I think the market's kind of ready for this.
Right, you hinted at something important there. Do you sense the market is leaning one way or another going into this report?
I think that the market's probably trading a 165 type number today. I think the market's also going to expect the USDA to not just do it in one jump. If they make a cut in August, we'd probably expect them to make another cut in September. So it's going to be kind of that stair-step approach. It really is getting back into a range-bound type trade here in corn, and soybeans probably more at risk for some downside.
As we close out, I want to talk about the export market for corn and soybeans as it comes close to the end of their marketing years. Tell me what they've been like.
Soybean numbers are good. I think that number probably goes up in the August report. So far, the shipments have exceeded what the USDA is budgeting on their balance sheet. Corn's going to be pretty close. I think this marketing year is okay. As you get into next year, that's where the issues probably start to develop, just because Argentina and Brazil have had both good corn and soybean crops. So will be interesting to see if the USDA plays with demand for 17-18 in the August crop report.